On May 16th, a TikTok user named Zuri the Alchemist posted a video that went viral, but not for any good reason. People were clowning her, they were stitching her, they were duetting her, they were making think pieces on this particular video. But why was this particular video so popular? It was because she got a nose job. But not just any nose job, it was one that made her look almost unrecognizable. A lot of people were comparing her to Michael Jackson post-surgery, and also they said that she looked like characters from Whoville. You know those cartoon characters that like the nose is kind of like that? Yeah, they were comparing her to that. But a major critique I saw was people telling Zuri that she needs to love herself. She needs to stop trying to look like a white woman and love herself. But this criticism wasn't only aimed at Zuri. People have been saying the same thing about Glorilla, who recently revealed that she also had got a nose job. That one hurts, not gonna lie, but we're gonna talk about it later in this video. Nose jobs have always been the trendy procedure, not only for Black women, so let's just make that very clear. But this past month, it feels like nose jobs have just been a hot topic. Every time someone pops out with a new face, the internet turns into a war zone. Half of the people are saying, do what makes you happy, it's a free country, do what you want. And then others are saying that you hate yourself, you're ugly, and you're trying to look like a white woman. And the thing is that this isn't just about Zuri or Glorilla. This is about a much deeper issue. Because when you zoom out, this isn't just about noses. It's about identity, survival, assimilation, and what happens when you look in a mirror that was never really designed for you in the first place. So we have a lot to unpack in this video, so buckle up, get ready, and hopefully by the end of this video, we can answer this question. At what point does self-improvement stop empowering and start becoming erasure? Let's get into this video. Yeah. I just want to mention real quick that I have another channel called NK & Co, like NK & Company. So over there I post more fun stuff, lighthearted stuff, the behind the scenes of these videos. So if you are interested in that type of content, make sure you check me out over there. I just like to have fun too, you know, not everyday serious. So that's why I created that second channel to have fun with y'all. So feel free to check it out and let's continue with this video. Part 1. It's just a nose job, right? The idea of changing your nose isn't new, it's ancient. Nose jobs are one of the oldest and most intense challenges in plastic surgery. We're talking about a procedure that dates back thousands of years, where the need to reconstruct a nose wasn't about vanity, it was about survival, dignity, and in many cases reclaiming a sense of humanity after punishment or violence. Nose jobs are also referred to as rhinoplasties and nasal reconstruction, so if I use those terms interchangeably, they all mean the same thing. Just want to make sure we all are on the same page, period. So I did some digging into the history of nose jobs because I was curious about the journey of nose jobs and why they're such a big thing today and why basically not everyone has them, but a lot of people have them. So my findings are pretty interesting, so I'm going to share them with you just so we have a pretty good understanding of what nose jobs are, just so we have some context into it before we get into Glorilla and Zuri. So the origins of nose jobs go way back. They actually originate in ancient India around 1500 BC. And at that time, noses were being cut off as a form of punishment. Oh, hell no. That was very shocking to hear, but at the same time, I'm not shocked because I swear people back in the day, they were just crazy. Like the type of punishment that they would give to people, crazy. Because tell me why, I don't remember what time period this is. This could be the medieval time period. Girl, I'm not sure. But tell me why one of the forms of punishment was to tie someone up by their hands and their legs so they're in a star shape. But basically they would stretch out a person, like basically like rip their body apart as a form of punishment. I was like, damn, thank the Lord I was not born back in the medieval time, the BC time, because I do not know how I would actually survive, to be honest, at all. Also, I'm Black too, so you know, thank the Lord I was born in the 21st century, but the punishments back in the day, crazy and disgusting. But since cutting off people's noses was a form of punishment, that's when nose makers became a thing. So Shruta was an ancient Indian physician and surgeon who was widely regarded as the father of plastic surgery. Also, I just want to say that I literally searched up how to say the name Shruta like 5 times, and I low-key got like different pronunciations, so I hope I'm saying it right because I know how y'all be with my pronunciation. Girl, I'm trying. Some of us are just dumb, so I'm pretty sure that's the correct pronunciation. But Shruta was a major figure in plastic surgery. He was a pretty big figure in general, to be honest. I would say he's like the inventor of nose jobs. jobs because he did write about using a leaf to trace the shape of a missing nose, then cutting a flap from the cheek to rebuild it. And that was around 600 BC. So it is pretty wild to think that something so brutal sparked a surgical innovation that would influence medicine for centuries, and it is affecting us to this day. So if we fast forward to the 1400s to 1500s, they were working with the same problem, just a different approach. Instead of using the cheek or the forehead, Italian surgeons developed what's now called the Italian method, which is using a skin flap from the arm that was left attached for weeks until the nose graft could survive on its own. So just imagine having your arm strapped to your nose for a full month. The dedication was real. That's why I keep saying I'm thankful that I was born during this time. Even though the world is ghetto, it's still better than back in the day. Eventually, the Indian forehead flap technique made its way to Europe in the 1800s, and honestly, it never left. Surgeons still use variations of this technique today just because it works well. But here's what makes this story so important. Nasal reconstruction isn't just a medical procedure. It's a blend of art, science, and cultural legacy. Across continents and centuries, people have found creative ways to repair the face in wake of loss or violence. So the history of this procedure is messy, it's global, and deeply human. But now when we think of nose jobs, we usually think of celebrities, influencers, and just overall acquiring a smaller, more narrow nose. But now that you have more context into nose jobs and where they came from, I wanted to ask y'all a question on Instagram to get your input on this whole topic. So I said, what do people today care more about when it comes to plastic surgery? So majority of y'all, which was 61%, said that the main thing that people care about when it comes to plastic surgery is how they will look, which honestly makes sense. I expected that to be the main answer. If you're getting a procedure, it's because you want to look a certain way, so you want the results to make sense. But what stood out to me was that 34% said what others will think, and that's a pretty big chunk of people. This honestly proves that even though people say that they're doing surgery for themselves, social pressure still has people in a chokehold. I believe that most of what we do is because we think of how we will be perceived. We say it's for us, but if you actually sit down and think about it, there's usually some level of outside influence there. Like for example, if I was invited to a wedding, I would wear heels, even though I don't like heels at all. I'll be honest, I don't like heels, they're uncomfortable. But I would not show up to a wedding in sneakers because people are gonna look at me crazy and they're gonna be like, girl, who the hell let you in? So I would wear heels even though I don't want to wear heels. So I definitely do feel like maybe most of the things we do is because of how we think we're gonna be perceived, especially when it comes to the internet. And I feel like that's also how surgeries are. It's less about what you want and more about how you think people are gonna react to your new look and how pretty or more attractive you are. But going back to the poll, we can see that it looks like barely anyone cares about the process or the history behind the surgeries. Seems like no one's out here searching up where BBLs or rhinoplasties came from, which is fair. Y'all just care about how you're supposed to look in the end of the day, so I respect it. This definitely says a lot about how beauty has turned into a performance. It's no longer about looking in the mirror and feeling good about yourself. It's about the reaction, the likes, and the comments. It's about whether that new selfie is gonna eat or gonna flop. Looking good for yourself sounds nice, but in today's world, it's hard to separate that from how people are going to perceive you. Elsa swiped up to my poll, and what she said resonated with how I feel about it, so I just wanted to read what she said. I'd also add that sometimes it isn't really from a deep-rooted insecurity of theirs, but it's more like it becomes an expectation if you want to fit in the beauty standard and trends. Like I think a lot of people wouldn't get surgeries if it wasn't made so trendy and so normalized. That's such a good point, and I feel like it adds another layer to this conversation. Everyone who is doing surgery hates themselves or has a deep-rooted insecurity. Maybe they just see it as a way to fit in because everyone else is doing it. And I feel like we're kind of getting to the point where maybe we are already at that point, but I feel like we're getting to the point where surgery is very normalized, it's very common, and it's like a casual thing, like where before it used to be a little bit more taboo. So if you are trying to fit into what you deem as attractive, then it is tempting to want to get these procedures done, right? But I feel like if we never had an era where big plump butts were a thing, then we would not have seen a rise in BBLs. And if smaller, more narrow and structured noses was not considered the beauty standard, then I don't think we would see people running to get nose jobs. And the same thing with boobs as well. If bigger boobs was not seen as the standard, then I feel like people would not be running to get boob jobs or to get their boobs lifted, because they'd be like, okay, it's not the standard, no one's calling me ugly, whatever. Because that's how trends work. They shift the baseline of what's considered normal, and suddenly your natural features are seen as lacking or outdated. It's less about personal insecurity and more about adapting to the new standard just to stay relevant. We're about to get into the few people who have gotten nose jobs, and as we go throughout this video, you're gonna see just how common nose jobs are and how also very subtle it can be as well. But what I want to mention, and I feel like this does apply to everything, but just because we're talking about nose jobs in this video, it applies to nose jobs. But when it feels like everyone's doing it, it feels less like a personal choice and more like a rite of passage or something that, oh, we all had to do to get to where we are today in like the entertainment space or even like the influencer space as well. But thank you so much to everyone who participated in my polls. If you want to be part of future poll discussions, make sure you check me out on Instagram, NK's World with 2 D's, because 1 D is not enough. And let's keep going with this video because I have a lot more to say. Let's keep it going. Part 2, when it's not just a nose job. Glorilla is a rapper out of Memphis, Tennessee, who blew up in 2022 with her breakout hit, FNF. That song went viral, it got her a Grammy nomination, and it also landed her a deal with Yo Gotti's label. But what really made her stand out was her voice.
And I'm S-I-N-G-L-E again. Run up on Big Glow, you won't, I bet your ass be on the floor.
It's deep, gritty, and honestly refreshing in a genre where things start to sound the same after a while. Also, what made Glorilla so refreshing when she first popped up into the scene was her look. She wasn't coming out in skin-tight dresses or the BB outfits. I mean, nothing wrong with the skin-tight outfits or the BB outfits, but just when you keep seeing the same thing over and over again, just on different people, it kind of gets tiring and you want something new. So she definitely came out with a whole new style and we're loving it. However, one could argue that she's now fallen into the trap of like the BBL outfits, but that's a discussion for another day. So Glow was mostly coming out in crop tops, cargos, graphic tees, more like a tomboy kind of aesthetic rather than a typical baddie. So during that time where female rap was very sexualized, she just felt different. However, I would still say that female rap is pretty sexual. One of her standout hits was Tomorrow 2 with Cardi B. She already had a song called Tomorrow and then Cardi B hopped on the remix, and that song pretty much went viral and did really well. And that's when I started listening to Glow and I was like, oh, okay, like period. I remember when the song came out, me and my friends, I was still working at my old job, but like after work we would blast the song while cleaning up the store. So that song has a special place in my heart, but it was a good song. I won't lie, Cardi B's verse on that track, period. One of her best verses ever. But let me not get sidetracked right now. But then just last year in 2024, Glorilla dropped her debut album titled Glorious, and this album did pretty well, and honestly it's a good album. My favorite song on it is I Love Her featuring T-Pain. Such a banger. If you have not listened to that song, definitely go ahead, listen to it after you watch this video though. So now that you know a little bit about Glorilla, let's talk about why she's been trending this week. So earlier this week, Glorilla posted some live streams or videos of her on TikTok and I believe Instagram, and people started clocking her and they're like, girl, did you get a nose job? Because her nose was looking different. It was looking more snatched and pointier than usual. Glorilla is no stranger to getting work done before. She has confirmed that she has had a boob job, and now it seems like she has basically confirmed the nose job as well, based on what she posted on Twitter, which is now known as X. So she literally tweeted and did with a smirking emoji. We can see that she's not denying it because she's saying and did, and she did get her nose done, and she don't give a damn. That's what it's giving. Because she even took it a step further by making Michael Jackson her profile photo, because people were comparing her nose to Michael Jackson's. Anytime people see a pointy nose, they're gonna compare you to Michael Jackson. So clearly she has been hearing what people are saying and she's leaning into the joke rather than taking offense to it. One thing I'm gonna say is that Michael Jackson has been catching strays. This whole week he's been catching strays because the girlies have gotten nose jobs that people keep comparing to him. First of all, of course, y'all know Michael Jackson, right? Please tell me, like, y'all know him. King of Pop? Yes, you should know him. But anyways, he is known for his immense talent, but also known for the amount of surgeries this man has got. All I'm gonna say about Michael is that he's extremely talented, and definitely his music is timeless. I still listen to his music to this day, but them surgeries, no. Like, we need to be honest. I know we all love Michael Jackson, but the surgeries were not good. They did not look good. Maybe the first couple of ones, it was fine, but I feel like after closer to the 2000s, the surgeries did not look good. So when people are comparing these ladies to Michael Jackson, it's not supposed to be a compliment, it's an insult. To get to the nose job that he had, well, he is dead, rest in peace, but to get to the nose job that he had before he died, like, you definitely would need several nose jobs if your starting point is like my nose. But yeah, the surgeries was a chop, and it's not a compliment to be compared to Michael Jackson's nose. So in that viral video that Glorilla was in, her nose definitely did look a bit more pointier and more snatched. However, I will say that it's probably fresh. She probably got that nose job, I don't know, a week ago. So usually when it's more fresh, it's gonna look, you know, pointier. So it hasn't healed yet. I think it takes a full year for your nose job to actually heal and to see the actual results of it. I know people are trying to make fun of her, but I doubt that's gonna be her permanent nose. But before I get into my thoughts on Glorilla's nose job, there's something more important that we need to talk about. And it's the comments that people made about Glorilla's appearance even before she got this nose job. She has always had a wider nose. That's just how her face is shaped. And to me, it suits her. It fits her face. You know, she's slim, she's petite, and her features match that energy that she was giving me. Very natural, very raw, just herself. She didn't look like a Kardashian. She didn't look like a video vixen. She just looked like a regular Black girl from the South. And people resonated with that because she was raw, unfiltered, and she was beautiful. And even though people did admire her beauty, I will say that the haters, the critics were very loud with how they disapproved of how she looked. These comments would constantly bring up her nose, her face, and even her body. And it wasn't constructive, it was just straight up rude. People on the internet made it seem like just because she didn't fit into some IG baddie aesthetic, that she wasn't worthy of the success that she has had. Especially with female rap, because let's talk about it. Female rap has had a specific look for a hot minute. This look, just think of Nicki Minaj, just think of Megan Thee Stallion, just think of Cardi B, Lotto too. That's the look of female rap. Tia Tamara's flat stomach, big booty, pretty face, like everything, like that is literally the look of it. And if you're not fitting into it, if you're not thick, if you don't have the curves, if you don't have the sex appeal, then people will clown you. They will just clown you, and that's exactly what happened with Glorilla. So 9 times out of 10, if you lean into that aesthetic, you're gonna get boosted. Glorilla, she defied the odds. She did not lean into that aesthetic, and she still popped off. And it was because her music was good. Her verses were good. The bars were barring. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you do, period. So even though Glorilla is winning, she's doing very well with her tour. I think her tour is done now though, but she was touring, her music was doing really well. She produced a great body of work. I personally loved her debut album. So even though everything was going right in her life, the comments about her looks definitely started to stick and become sort of part of her brand. So this apparent nose job that Glorilla has got, it did not come out of nowhere. It came after years of people calling her ugly, saying that her nose is too big, she's too skinny, her boobs are too small, she's too manly. Like, when you hear that every day about your looks, it's hard not to believe that. So that's one thing I'll say about this whole nose job controversy. In fact, one of the loudest moments in her career where people were talking about her looks dates back to October 2024. So here's what happened. This Atlanta makeup artist named Angelica White, she reposted an old video from 2023 where she did a natural glam look on Glorilla. But in 2024, that was a bigger year for Glow. She went on tour with Megan Thee Stallion. She released her debut album. Her songs were doing well. So people knew about Glorilla more in 2024 versus 2023. So that's why I'm assuming even though the makeup artist video was from 2023, she reposted it in 2024 because Glow is bigger and hopefully the video would go viral and get her more clients. That's what I'm assuming. But anyways, it was one of those before and after clips where they show your face bare, no makeup, and they show the after, like the aftermath of it. Some people liked it, but of course the internet did what it does best and they started dragging Glow for how she looked, which led to her getting trolled all over the place. So Glow replied to the backlash and she went on Instagram Live just saying that she didn't approve of the video. She wasn't happy that the video was reposted and she was mostly taking jabs at the makeup artist. She made it clear that she felt like the makeup artist did not do a good job with the makeup and that was it. And I feel like it was her trying to also push back against the haters as well because they were just clowning Glorilla for how she looked. Angelica responded saying that she was hurt because Glow was her first celebrity client and she was genuinely proud of that moment.
So honestly, hearing this hurts, even though she may not remember the conversation that we had that day, but I told her that I was an up and coming makeup artist. I was currently in school and I left school that day early because I was so excited to do her makeup.
Makeup. Yeah, I just saw this shit on my motherfucking page. This shit just me up. They don't know I liked it though. No, you didn't like it. What, the makeup? Yeah. I told you it was cute. No, it wasn't.
As you can hear in the video, her friend said it looked nice, and so have other comments.
She also pointed out that Glorilla had booked with her 2 to 3 times after that initial appointment, so she was confused where all the shade was coming from. So while Glow and the makeup artist were going back and forth, of course the internet did what it does and they chimed in. So let me just read some of the comments of what people were saying, just to show you how people were treating Glow even before she got this nose job. So one said, the makeup was good, it's just her. That has 11,000 likes. Another one said, Glow, it's your face. I ain't trying to talk about you, but the makeup wasn't the issue. And then this last comment literally aged like fine wine because this is Glow's reality now. She is beyond beautiful. You can never ever please people or social media. If she went and got work done, you guys still would not be happy with her decision. Let her live. Now ain't that some tea right there? Because that's low-key, high-key what Glow is going through right now. There's definitely mixed reactions when it comes to her nose job. People are comparing her to Michael Jackson, but not in a good way. People are also saying that she wants to look like a white woman, and some are just flat out saying that the nose is too pointy and it's ugly. Now, what I will say is that I don't like plastic surgery. I don't like surgery in general, period. I'm more of a natural person. Like, if I have pain, I would rather like take tea or take something that's more natural versus taking medicine. But of course, if I have to get medicine, if I have to get my vaccine or something like that, I would do it, of course. But I'm just not a person who likes to do those things. I don't jump at the opportunity to get surgery. And then when it comes to plastic surgery, I usually don't like the look of it, and I also feel like it is an unnecessary procedure. But however, even though I'm not a fan of plastic surgery, if you get it, I don't judge. I get the pressure to get plastic surgery, so I understand it 100%. But if someone can watch my video and decide not to get plastic surgery, or if I could even convince my friends not to get plastic surgery, I'll be happy. Amen. What I will say is that I am a bit surprised because I didn't expect Glorilla to get a nose job, but at the same time I shouldn't have been, just because people have called her ugly so many times and have told her that her nose is too big, like so many times, that I should have saw it coming, or at least maybe thought it was coming, but honestly I didn't. I was like, oh, there's no way she's gonna fight through this and ignore everyone who's calling her ugly. But the internet bullied her basically into getting a nose job.
Okay. I think she's medium ugly too.
She's below, talk about that.
She's
bro.
below medium ugly.
I think
in a natural.
Nah, don't disrespect Glow like that.
Sorry, I have to. I mean, I'm not saying she's ugly. She's below medium ugly though.
That's ugly, ain't it?
Damn.
That's what you said to me. You said I was below medium ugly.
If you do say it's below medium ugly, that means you saying it's
she's in that limbo between ugly and medium ugly. Like you said, that decent but undecent.
She's muggly.
She's undecent.
When she first popped off, she was completely natural. And that's probably because she didn't have the money to afford these procedures, because we know to get all these beauty stuff, it costs a lot of effing money. And even before she got this nose job, I've been wanting to make a video on Glorilla and just her appearance and how people treat her because of the way she looks. So now that she has gotten this nose job, I think it's a perfect time to talk about it. And that really upset me, the way that people talked about Glow's nose. It's one thing for BBLs, cool boob jobs or whatever, but I feel like a nose job is such a huge thing. And to me, I think it's because your nose really structures your face. If you change your nose, you're gonna look completely different. And I feel like surgery in itself is a way of like making everyone like assimilate to look the same. But when it comes to nose jobs, I feel like you're really like pushing a particular look. And I don't like the fact that Eurocentric noses have always been praised, and we have been told many times that big, wide noses are ugly and that there's something wrong with it and that it needs to be improved to be more narrow. Wider and flatter noses are typically associated with Black people. I would say also East Asians too a little bit, like they do have a similar nose. I would say mostly it is associated with Black people and is also deemed as unattractive. I'm sure if you have a wider nose, you have experienced people making fun of you for it, maybe when you were younger. I can remember a couple times where people made fun of me when I was younger in school, like elementary school, but it wasn't as frequent. And I would honestly say I had a pretty hard head back in the day, so I wasn't easily influenced by people calling me ugly, because I'm like, well, it is what it is. And even though it wasn't something that stuck with me long term or was brought up all the time, it still didn't feel good in the moment. That kind of thing can plant a seed, even if that thing feels small in the moment. Imagine that. Imagine being told that your nose is too big, too wide over and over and over again, but not just by your classmates, but by a wider audience, like millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people telling you that your nose is too big. Just try to imagine that. So I can understand Glow's reasoning for getting a nose job. I mean, she hasn't explained it to us why she has got a nose job, and I don't think she ever will. But I mean, we can make our own inferences on why she got this nose job. So honestly, I understand it, but I will say that I wish it never happened. And not because I think the nose is ugly or too pointy, because I'm sure it's gonna round out eventually once it heals, but I just wish she never did it, because it feels like we are letting these people make us hate our natural features. And just to make it clear, of course, not all Black people have wide noses. We come in different shapes, colors, sizes, and also depends on our genetics and stuff, so not all of us have wide noses. I'm only pointing this out because wider noses and fuller lips are typically associated with Black people. And that's why it hits different when those features are picked apart. It doesn't just feel like a personal jab. It starts to feel like it's an attack on Blackness as a whole. And what ends up happening is this cycle, especially in female rap, where Black women feel the pressure to tweak or change themselves just to fit into this narrow, hyper-curated beauty standard. And because so many of these women are in the spotlight, it sets the bar that other Black women feel like they need to reach too. It's exhausting and it's unfair. The Black beauty standard, oh my God, it's a lot. Like, the beauty standard in general is a lot. But if we talk about specifically the beauty standard for Black women, it is a lot. Like big boobs, flat stomach, big booty, perfect face. It's too much. And men do not go through the same things. But anyways, I wanted to ask y'all a question on Instagram about this topic, so this is what I said. Which feature do you think people are the most critical of online? So it's no surprise that 85% of you said body size and shape is what people are the most critical of online. This one is definitely front and center because the first thing you typically see is someone's body shape and size. I can definitely attest to this on Instagram. Instagram loves suggesting me reels of people who are bigger, and then I go to the comments and the comments are always dragging that person. So I can definitely agree with that answer, that body size and shape is typically what people are the most critical of online. But what is interesting is that only 7% said nose shape, even though the pressure to conform to Eurocentric nose standards has led to a huge rise in cosmetic procedures, especially among women of color. But maybe it flies under the radar because people aren't always explicit when they criticize nose, and sometimes the changes are so subtle that people don't really notice or it doesn't warrant too much criticism. What's even more telling is that only 5% said skin tone and 3% said hair. But thank you so much for being part of my future polls. Don't you go anywhere because I have more questions coming up. And as always, if you want to be part of future polls, you can check me out on Instagram, NK's World with 2 Ds. And yeah, but let's keep going with this video. Okay, so we have talked about Glorilla a bit, but we need to talk about Zuri. So on May 16th, she posted a video showing her recovery. So she was 5 weeks post-op, and that video went viral. It has 4 million views at the time I'm filming this video, but it went viral because people were clowning her, not because they thought it looked good. But she has been super open about her healing process, answering people's questions and clapping back at the haters. And in the comments of Zuri's video, people kept bringing up Kelly Rowland, saying saying that Kelly Rowland has the best nose job but looks supernatural. And I was pretty shocked because I was like, what? Kelly Rowland has a nose job? I just guess for some people, I just assume that they're natural and they're just born like that. But I was shocked that she got a nose job, which made me search up to confirm, like, did she get a nose job or what? So Kelly has said that she has gotten a nose job, but when I was looking for that confirmation, I found this interesting thread on Reddit, which was comparing different nose jobs from different African-American celebrities. But the very first picture on that thread is Beyonce. This one though wasn't that surprising to me because, I mean, it's pretty obvious that she has gotten one if you look at her before and after pictures, but the difference is very subtle, but it's definitely there. And honestly, I find that before she got her nose job, she looked very similar to her daughter, Blue Ivy. They had a very similar nose shape. And this would have been back when Beyonce was a teenager, maybe like in Destiny's Child. And this made me think of how people used to bully Blue Ivy. Blue Ivy is Beyonce's daughter, by the way. But this reminds me of when people used to bully Blue Ivy for her looks when she was a baby. They thought she was ugly, that her hair was nappy, that she looked too much like Jay-Z. People expected Blue Ivy to come out looking like a Beyonce clone, which in reality she did. Like, if you look at older photos of Beyonce, Blue Ivy looks very similar to her mother. And honestly, I hope as Blue Ivy grows up that she doesn't feel pressured into getting a nose job or getting other work done just to fit some twisted standard. But honestly, my expectations are low, especially in the Hollywood realm. It feels like they'd be pushing everyone to get work done. So, I mean, I can hope, but I guess we'll just see as time goes on. Then we also had Zendaya here, which surprised me. When I think of Zendaya, I think of natural, simple, beautiful, elegant, just like simple. And I guess I just never thought that she got work done, especially got a nose job. But when you look at the photos, you can kind of see, okay, like there has been some sort of enhancement done on the nose, which would be a rhinoplasty, of course.
2015, you can see from this kind of a angled shot, her nose looks distinctly different than it did when she was a child. There's obviously more prominence to the nasal bridge. Everything looks in proportion. There's nothing too radically done, of course.
Zendaya was beautiful before the surgery and she's still beautiful after. But once I realized that she may have gotten work done, I don't know, it just kind of felt weird because I've always admired her natural beauty. So to find out that she might have felt the need to tweak something, I guess it kind of messes with your head. Like, for example, let's say you saw 5 beautiful women and you're like, wow, they're so pretty, like I want to be like them, like they just look so natural and amazing. But then you find out that every single one of them has had something done, whether it's a nose job, lip filler, whatever, something like that. So that realization alone can make you start questioning yourself. Like, do I need to get something done too? Is that what it takes to be beautiful? And I'll be real, I don't feel the need to get anything done. Have I in the past? Yes, but not to the point where I was like, okay, I'm actually gonna book my appointment, get it done. No. And I honestly hope I never get to the point where I feel like I have to. But I can understand that pressure because trust me, I've been there. When I'm looking at Beyonce and Zendaya, I'm like, wow, like, yeah, maybe I should like get a nose job that's like so subtle because like it just makes their nose look a bit more refined. It's very easy to think that when you're looking at all these beautiful ladies and then turns out they all had a nose job. So some people turn to plastic surgery, not necessarily because they're insecure, but because it feels like the only way to reach that level of beauty. And even though these women might have had work done, well, some of them, I feel like it's, yeah, y'all got work done. I'll just say might, because some of it's not confirmed. So yeah, even though some of them might have gotten work done, they still give off this natural perfection vibe. So it definitely creates this cycle where everyone's chasing a look that might not even be 100% real. Anyways, I have gotten completely off topic. Well, not off topic, but I wanted to talk about Zuri, not that thread for that long. But anyways, let's go back to Zuri. If you want to look more into the Reddit thread, I will link it down below. So of course, after Zuri posted her nose update, people said it was ugly, it's too pointy, she looks like she's from Whoville, and that she resembles Michael Jackson. She also pulled a Glorilla and made her profile photo Michael Jackson, kind of just to troll the haters. So let's read some of the comments under Zuri's viral video because I feel like a lot of interesting discussions were happening there. Whoever did this is a smooth criminal, referencing Michael Jackson's song, Smooth Criminal. Y'all just, I don't even know how half of y'all be thinking of these things, but I want my spot in heaven, so let me not say anything. Another said, Black women have to start getting ethnic nose jobs. Our features do not support a pinched nose. Black women don't need to get nose jobs, period. Then this one was interesting. I need ethnic people to start loving their features. This is getting out of hand. And then under this comment, them girlies, they were fighting under this specific comment. I'm not gonna go through all of the replies because I'm just not gonna read all that, but I do want to read this one because it stood out to me. Improving equals changing to fit arbitrary, baseless beauty standards that drastically differ from cultures, countries, and time periods, which mean absolutely nothing, only to end up looking worse and unoriginal. That's not even touching the statistics on people who regret it, develop mental disorders, passing genes to your kids that you didn't learn to accept. So they were replying to someone who was saying that improving your look is not a bad thing. This person was supporting Zuri, saying that getting a nose job is just a look improvement. So then that person replied with what I just read. And that was a read, I can't lie. I get what they're saying. Beauty standards are literally made up. They change all the time depending on trends, region, era, all of that. So chasing this perfect look doesn't even make sense long term because the goalpost keeps moving. Remember when y'all said that thin lips were in and big lips were ugly? Now look. I remember that because in school, I would see my peers get made fun of for having big lips and I didn't have big lips. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm safe then. I don't have to worry about that. Like I was happy that I didn't have big lips. But now look, big lips are considered attractive now. You see? And then the part about passing down your features that you never learned to accept, that definitely did hit hard. It's a deeper conversation, especially when we think about how this impacts future generations. You're changing your nose, but your daughter might be born with that same nose and then feel like she needs to fix her nose as well once she grows up. Even for me, when making these videos, I try to do my hair, my makeup, I try to look nice and cute on camera so y'all don't call me ugly. I remember one of my videos, it's one of my earlier videos, someone literally commented, I don't know what this video is about, I don't really care, but you're gorgeous. So I was like, oh, like that's really nice, but like, damn, you know, I put in all this effort into the video, you're not even like understanding what I'm saying. But yeah, honestly, I get it. And that's why I do try to put an effort into my appearance because I do know pretty privilege is a thing. So I'm already black, I'm a woman, wherever I can get my privilege, I'm gonna try to take it, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I stand with it. I never want to have to resort to plastic surgery. Ever. If I start feeling insecure about something, I would rather work through it mentally and emotionally rather than change how I look permanently. If making these videos helps even one person feel more grounded in who they are and how they look and not go through a procedure that they don't even need, then that's all I need. But at the same time too, surgery is a choice. So I am not trying to shame you and say, don't get it, don't get it. I mean, I'm gonna say don't get it, but in the end of the day, it's really your choice. I just don't like the idea of cutting myself up for a beauty standard that might change next year. So when I saw that Zuri had gotten a nose job, it just made me pause because if you look at her videos prior to this nose job, she looked great. I honestly don't know why she got it done. It did feel very unnecessary, but then again, that's kind of the whole point of this conversation. Even women who are beautiful and we consider like the standard, they still feel pressure to tweak things here and there to look a certain way. And it also seems like Zuri's nose job is not her first procedure done. She actually has a post where she's mimicking what people say about her. And people are saying, you're always getting something done. Then she clapped back with, God forbid a woman improve herself. Here's the thing. I get the sarcasm in her voice and I understand wanting to defend your choices. But let's be real. Getting a nose job is not automatically the same thing as improving yourself. And that mindset is actually where it gets dangerous. Because once you start seeing surgery as a routine improvement, that's when it becomes a slippery slope. It starts with one tweak, then another, and before you know it, you have already completed 50 surgeries in the span of 2 years. It's insane. The issue isn't the surgeries, it's the mindset behind them. When improvement becomes synonymous with surgery, we're setting ourselves up to believe that we're never enough unless we alter something. And that's not empowerment, that is a trap. It's a trap. Y'all, they're trapping y'all. Which brings me to the next part of this video. Part 3, the Eurocentric Mirror. A lot of the beauty standards that we chase, especially when it comes to your nose shape, aren't actually rooted in what we believe is beautiful. They're rooted in Eurocentric ideals that have been pushed on us through the media, pop culture and centuries of colonized beauty norms. You know, narrow noses, lighter skin, looser curls. These features have been treated as the default for beauty. So of course, people view altering themselves to fit that mold as improvement. But when your idea of beauty is shaped through a mirror that was never designed for you, you're not really seeing yourself. You're seeing a distorted reflection of what society wants you to look like. And that distortion is powerful. It can make you second guess the features that you're born with and even love until someone convinces you that it's a flaw. There are things that I would have never thought would be considered flaws, but people do, such as hip dips. There's a time on TikTok where people were talking about their hip dips and how they hated it. I was like, since when has hip dips become a flaw? I didn't really start noticing beauty standards and what's considered ugly and what's considered pretty. I would say I did not start really understanding it until I was in the 5th grade. So that would have been when I was like 10 years old. Because in that grade, that's when I saw people start to bully people for how they looked. Actually, no, scratch that. I remember I think I would go all the way back to 2nd grade because I had this one classmate. She was bigger than most students. People made fun of her for that. It was crazy too because I had moved. Like, I was a new student and I was sad because I had to make a bunch of new friends. At my old school, like, I never experienced anything like that where one kid was targeted and bullied like crazy. But I came to that school, I was new, and I remember when I first saw this student, it's crazy. Like, I still remember this feeling just because, I don't know, some feelings you just remember forever. But anyways, I remember seeing the student who was overweight for the first time. When I saw her, I just saw her as a person. I think I was doing hopscotch or some BS like that. And she's like, wow, you're really good at it. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I just saw her as a kid, like as a person. As time went on, I noticed that she was a target of bullying. People would just call her fat, call her ugly, call her this, that, the third. And then in my head, I was like, oh, so she's considered fat, she's considered ugly. And I feel like that's when looks started really registering in my mind. Honestly, like, I never stood up for her, which I hate, but I never bullied her too. And in my defense, I was young and I was new to the school and I just really wanted to make friends. So I did not want to become a target for bullying as well. It just felt weird to me, like, we're bullying her because of her weight. What are we doing? I mean, not we, because I never bullied her. Just a little story about NK's life back in the day. But I still remember that feeling to this day, even though I was so young, just because I feel like we remember feelings. You know, as you grow up, you might forget the details of things that happen, but you're not gonna forget the way that people made you feel, so period. But because we're talking about this and I was thinking about this when I was writing my script, I wanted to ask y'all this question on Instagram. When did you first become aware of beauty standards? So the biggest chunk, 46%, said between the ages 10 to 13. Makes sense because at this time, students start using social media more. And this was around the time when I was aware of beauty standards. I was aware of it earlier on, like 2nd grade, sorry. But I think this is the time where most kids start understanding it, especially Gen Alpha, because they be on TikTok, they be on social media a lot. So they probably see a lot more stuff than we saw back in our day. I say that like I'm an old person, but you know what I mean. Then 18% said 14 to 17, which still feels young, but at least you had more time before the pressure really hit. Then a third of you, 33%, said before the age 10. So we weren't even in middle school at that time and people were already telling us how to look. And I feel like that's when you're really developing, you're learning stuff, you're observing everything at that age, like before 10. So if you see someone getting treated a certain way because of how they look, of course, beauty standards are gonna start to stick and you're gonna understand, if I look like that, I get treated bad. But if I look like that, I get treated good. So things like that, kids definitely notice it. And then only 3% said as an adult, which shows how early this stuff really starts. Then Juliana swiped up and she said, I feel like I was aware of beauty standards around 10 to 13, but around 14 to 17, I started acting out on it. And I would say that's similar to me as well. I would say I understood beauty standards, maybe not completely, but I became aware of it before the age 10, but I didn't start acting out on it until 14 to 17. But I would say more like 16. When I got my first job, that's when I really started acting out on it. That's when I started wearing makeup. I agree with Juliana. I feel like we're aware of it earlier, but maybe we don't act on it until like later on. But thank you all so much for participating in this poll. As always, it always makes these videos interesting. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, NK's World with 2 Ds, so you can be part of future poll discussions and we can keep geared up over there. But anyways, let's keep on going with this video. So I know I've talked about Eurocentric features for a while, but I just want to explain exactly what they are and what I'm talking about. So typically, Eurocentric features, they consist of small, narrow noses, thin lips, even though lip fillers are now in though, light skin, light eyes, straight or wavy hair, slim bodies with just the right amount of curves, not too much, or it's gonna be too much. And overall facial features that are typically associated with whiteness or European ancestry. And the thing is that even in cultures that aren't white, these features are pushed as what's beautiful. You'll see it in the media and the influencers that get the most praise, and even in subtle things like how natural black hair is still seen as unprofessional in certain jobs unless it's straightened or tucked away under a wig. So basically, the closer you are to these European ideals, the more attractive you are considered. You could be drop dead gorgeous, but you have dark skin, full lips, a wider nose, and kinkier hair, and people start nitpicking. Or they give you compliments like, "You're pretty for a black girl." That's not even a compliment, it's an insult. So if you say that to people, stop saying it because it's not a compliment. Just letting you know. So when Zuri gets a nose job and she calls it self-improvement, what exactly are we improving? Because she was beautiful before, she's still beautiful now, but I just don't understand what the improvement was for. And you could be the most beautiful person in the world, but it's still possible that you're gonna feel like you're not good enough or you don't look perfect. And that's the trap of these Eurocentric beauty ideals. They make you feel like you're choosing yourself, when really you're just choosing to be accepted. And once you start changing these things to try to fit into this mold, you're gonna be like 50 surgeries in and then realize, what have I done? Or like, what the heck is going on? And no shade, most people that I know personally, love y'all. If y'all watching this video, hey, what's up? This is no shade, but most of y'all, like when you start getting procedures done, it's never just one procedure. It's always like at least a couple procedures, or you're always going back thinking of your next procedure that you want to do. It doesn't stop at one. Maybe for some people it does. I just don't know them personally. Nose jobs aren't just about reshaping cartilage. They're about reshaping identity. And when we say that they're ruining your face, we don't mean botched surgeries or collapsed nostrils. We mean the erasure of features that carry culture, ancestry, and individuality. It's why Glorilla, who built her image on authenticity and rawness, felt the need to go under the knife after constant online bullying. And why right now on TikTok, a young black woman is trending not for her glow up, but because her nose job left her looking like someone else entirely. The internet is laughing, but the deeper story here is that we're being conditioned to dislike the very features that make us who we are. When nose jobs become a trend and not a personal choice and self-love, it's no longer about enhancement. It's about assimilation. So I'll ask you the question I asked you earlier today. At what point does self-improvement stop being empowering and start becoming erasure? Because to me, it feels like we are erasing our features that make us who we are. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all today. Hopefully I wasn't too preachy. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you in my next videos. You can also watch my other videos here that are about this topic. And also feel free to check me out on NK & Co, where I post more funny, chill stuff, random stuff there, just like fun stuff, because not every day is serious, you know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for being here, and I really do appreciate you, and yeah, bye!